Hello and welcome to this second Mobile World Congress 2025 TechnoTree panel. Once more, we're going to be talking about AI, but this time we're talking about the, I think, very interesting concept of an agentic AI CEO. And once more, we've got an excellent panel in front of us. We've got Benji from KPN, we've got Guy from TM Forum, we've got Hitesh from TechnoTree, we've got Aaron from Cult Technology Services, and we've got Vladan from Orion Telecom. Thank you very much for joining us. So I'm going to get straight into it. I'll start with you, Benji. What is an agentic AI CEO, and why do we need one?
Well, firstly, I think it's great to consider a prompted CEO, because we all, I think, have lived and worked with CEOs that we wish we could prompt them. But an agentic, any employee, I believe, even be it a service agent or a leader or a CEO, is going to be all about the outcome-based future that you want to build for your company. And we also know that CEOs, have a lot of influence in terms of emotion, visionary. If you think of a Steve Jobs, how can we then actually train the AI to be that emotionally intelligent and also read the room to influence and lead people? So is it a replacement? Is it an augmentation? Is it actually a facilitation? Is it a correction? I think it could be all of the above. So
Right. Well, I mean, any of you feel free to speak up if you want, but I'll move on to you, Guy. The Luddite in me thinks the replacement part of Benji's answer is a little bit disturbing. Do you think we can have agentic AI replacing even people at this most senior level?
Well, look, there is a company, I think, there is a RAM company that's actually appointed a CEO robot. Whether it's actually replacing the CEO or is the CEO is a good question. I'd actually go and ask a different question for that one.
Sure.
For that agentic CEO of ours. I'd ask how much addicted is that CEO, and addiction is all about, to the decisions of the agent to the point they're not really supervising it properly. So I would ask about agentic AI CEO, I would ask about addiction.
Okay, what about you, Hitesh? Maybe if you want, you could bring it back to, as I was saying before we started recording, I've got a tendency to go off on sort of dystopian tangents when we're talking about AI. But in terms of like the practical benefits that something like this does, could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Definitely. I think if you look at it from a practical perspective, I mean, what is an agentic AI bot doing today? It's processing information at scale. And I think that's, if you think about it, in any corporate culture, you're looking at processing that data in terms of what are your competitors doing, what is your own business doing. That data, being able to leverage it and provide that support to your decision making is key to everything that you're going to do. Is it going to replace the CEO? My bets are off. Again, how are you going to hold that agentic CEO accountable, not only to the people, but to the board, as well as into the industry that it is servicing? So I think that is maybe a step too far, but definitely in terms of being able to augment that decision making, I think we are getting very close to that particular capability. And I think the ability of us to process that information at scale, provide that ability to support, I think it's definitely something that's on the cards.
But to intercept there a little bit just before we go on, actually,
Sure.
Because augmenting is definitely a very good word, because you might be empowering a CEO, a CFO, which we already are doing, and every single employee in the company with AI. However, what I am observing a little bit is that we're not digesting information any longer. So we have these consultants that do incredible work for us, produce incredible documentation, which I could have probably also run through a machine. But nobody can actually get into the detail any longer because they're not digesting it. So you're also losing a little bit of expertise. So I might have a very great agentic CEO that can reproduce data points and take emotion out of it. But I love emotion and passion, of course. But at the end of the day, it's also not digesting the real information because it's just replaying. So you get to a degree of, it has to be a combination. It has to be augmented, bionic, improved, but still digesting. So it's not just spitting out.
I think that's a really good point about in its ideal, in its most utopian form, AI is a massive enabler of human potential and ability. But I think you make a really good point about how if we rely on it too much, our natural skills and instincts and abilities might atrophy a little bit. So that's an important balance. Maybe Aaron, I'll throw the ball to you. Have you got any thoughts on that topic?
No, very good point, very good point. In one hand, an agentic CEO can potentially capture much more information from the bottom of his company, and sometimes less isolated and enrich his decision with so many and so much data. But often, firstly, we can impact intuition, and I totally agree with that. But also, sometimes we know what we have to do. We know. CEO knows. What makes a CEO a good CEO is the human aspect, to make it apply, to look at the human aspect of applying something. And this is clearly something that can't be done by an agentic CEO.
Yeah. I was going to pass it to you, Vlad, and you're a CTO at a telco. What are things looking like at your company in terms of how you're using AI to help make these kind of high-level decisions?
Yeah, basically, what I understood from where the trends are going, most of the KPIs of our CEO, CFO, are falling down now to the CEO to handle them. So there are vast majority of data that need to be processed, as my colleague said, and what an AI agent could bring to the table is the processing of those information and making correct decisions and the consistency in making those decisions. So, yeah, when you ask a question, is it possible to have an AI CEO? Yeah, maybe in the future all outcomes are possible, but probably the next step towards that would be probably AI could be the CEO's best friend in terms of analyzing all the data that he needs to. But at the end of the day, it needs to be intuition for some decisions to be made, to steer the company into the right direction.
I think I'd like to expand that for a second. I'd like us to look at a CEO for a moment. And if we think about the board of directors of the future, looking at hiring a CEO, and what is the job description today?
Oh, how many languages can they speak even?
What's the job description tomorrow, and what's the job description of the future? And if you think about it for a moment, is, you know, if you equivalent that to a network operation center, what a NOC engineer needs to know 6 things today, a NOC engineer plus Gen AI needs to know only 2 things. What does the NOC engineer need to know tomorrow? Same for the CEO. I do believe that as humans, we are not going to lose our jobs. That's like a fad. But we are going to become supervisor. So our agentic CEO actually might be managing 5,000 AI agents, is going to be a leader, just not only of humans. I think that's my interpretation of agentic CEO. I don't think that at this point in time would have a robot CEO for real, fully autonomous. And even if that is there, the board of directors will still supervise it. But I think a team leader of agents, why not? Why not?
Well, who is going to be responsible for the decision making of the AI?
You gotta have a human, you know, they call it about human in the loop, human on the loop, and human in command. You know, the CEO is always in command, of course, but just in command of AI agents as well, instead of just human agents.
Yeah.
I'll call that an agentic CEO.
It goes a little bit also about the importance of the ethics of AI, right? So there's the AI acts, there's all of the councils that we're putting in place. And I believe that that's really important because it's a little bit like having a parrot and sending it into a pirate ship. And when it comes out and it speaks with foul language, you're disappointed. So you have to also enable an ecosystem of good hygiene, good ethics, good values. Just like a religion, no matter what religion you practice or don't practice, you kind of know what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I think, what's going to be the powerful thing about making it, keeping it safe, keeping it intuitive and dynamic.
And I think to add to that, I think it's the CEO is also about empathy, right? And being able to make sure that you can make a right decision in terms of the growth of the company above, you know, certain decision points which are purely just data driven. And it comes back to being able to balance empathy, values, being able to actually be accountable for that decision that you're making. Without that, you're not going to be able to replace. And then it comes back to your structure.
Right. If they have more agents, they might be able to deal with more humans, you know, we might get some attention finally.
Yes.
So, I mean, it strikes me that at the core of all this is the interface between the machines and the humans. And as machines get more sophisticated and more capable of thinking in inverted commas, although I think we're still quite away from what people call like AGI or something like that, but they're doing a good impression of thinking at least. And as that happens more, and you get better natural language processing, you're going to get more what you could say are social interactions between people and machines. And I think that seems especially interesting when you're talking about leadership, because one of the questions that I already had prior to this, and it's still valid, is are people going to take orders? Or maybe orders is too anachronistic a term. Are people going to take leadership from a machine? What do you think?
Well, we already take orders from machines, right? So if you've been following a GPS in Waze, you're taking order from a machine of how you're going to move, right? So
Yeah.
I don't think it's a mindset shift. I think it goes back again to what is the natural need for passion, for emotion, for empathy, for communication.
Yeah.
And a machine might learn, yes, natural processing, can read 500 sensors in the room and make the best assessment for that moment. But it's still not as good as a human being's ever going to be.
I agree.
It depends, though, if we allow the machines to take away our humaneness from us,
Yeah.
and we become less
We start talking like them.
Exactly. Why is it now so wrong when someone says that, Benji, you're a walking emotion? I'm like, hell yes, I'm a walking emotion, because it makes me human, right? I don't want to be the vanilla executive. Actually, I like the range and the rainbow and everything that comes
Totally.
with it, because that makes you different. Machines are there to help us, but we also need to ensure that we also protect that makes us so uniquely human.
Yeah.
And also in the way we design the AI has to be human or humane. So
Yeah, back
don't
to your
know the
ethics
answer,
point
yeah.
as well. Yeah, and and there is that. This came up in the discussion we had yesterday, and you've all touched on it to some extent. So much of it comes down to how we program this AI and what inputs we give it. It's a bit like, again, with this sort of blurred line between machines and humans. It's education, except it probably doesn't take like 21 years to teach an AI.
But we can today, which is a bit scary, huh? We can capture metadata from conversation. We call that beacons that can capture the emotion. So a robot could consider the emotion and potentially take a decision based on that. What we could not take today and what we could not do with a robot is an engagement. Today, in court, our CEO is quite engaged on sustainability, against on diversity, and it's, I think, a bit more difficult for a robot because there's no right or wrong. It's an engagement. So you see, in one hand, we could now, and in the near future, you will see that there will be more and more metadata that could capture emotions, and this metadata could be used by robots, that after will potentially change the way they will request things. But in the other hand, I think again, engagement, it's a bit difficult for a robot today.
I actually want to wear my security hat for a moment, and take that humane angle, just a different perspective, in a way. It comes down to the fabric of trust. Okay, whereas humans are trusting each other because we have human interactions. When I teach people how to become AI native, and I sit them down on a ChatGPT, I have two rules for them always. It's always work. I said, stop searching, start exploring. Don't know the answer, because when you're dealing with humans, you're not searching. When I talk to you socially, I'm exploring. And two, be polite. So people ask me, what do you mean be polite? I said, if you think polite and talk to the machine politely, you will open up new areas of way of interaction. Yeah. That's the positive. The negative is what happens when that machine starts becoming polite to you. It would actually interact with you and trigger areas in your brain that are completely bypassing the firewall. Right. And that is an issue, and that is the risk of humane. So we all go after responsible and we want it right, but how much do we really want it? Like, there's a cool kid already suicide because he engaged with an avatar of an AI. So this is the other side. Just wearing my security hat for a moment. Like, I know it's a bit depressing, but that's also important.
But how do we then navigate that? Because we are humans and we want to be receptive, and that's a form of manipulation. Also, we have that with human beings sitting next to each other,
Correct.
right? That's also the dark side of human behavior and psychology. So, be it a robot or not, we're exposed to it. So, how do we then safeguard? Do we then, as humans, say we have to remind ourselves that this is actually not another human being, and keep the hierarchy in a format? I don't know.
I don't know the answer. If I knew it, I'd open a startup.
ask that agentic CEO?
That's the billion-dollar question, I guess. But maybe my colleagues have an answer here. I don't know.
But you know what? A world without AI, I can't imagine anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the counter.
But did you notice that we have now companies that ask employees to come back to the office?
For human interaction.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we are discovering that we are missing something.
Yeah.
Even when we are
I say
talking
that the
through Zoom.
digesting of content as well. When I talk to my analysts, I'm like going to ask them questions on the spot. They're like, oh no, I have to check my notes. I'm like, no. You're not going to go check ChatGPT. You need to know your stuff. This is how you get ahead in your career. And then you're losing that. And then you have to have them in person to be able to read their body language, say, oh, they're insecure. They
Totally.
don't know this content.
I completely agree. I mean, humans are social animals. You look at where we are now in Mobile Congress, there's thousands of people all milling around.
Talking about
we
AI.
could have done it all remotely, but we want to come and meet up with people in person.
Yeah.
And, another thing I do, I record a podcast once a week, and I always make sure the podcast is done in a studio face-to-face. Because like the non-verbal cues that you get, the body language, just being in the same space together, catching people's expression, like me being like moderating a panel like this, I've got to be able to look at all your expressions, see who wants to speak and all that sort of thing. So these are all human things. We're kind of running out of time, and I got one more question that I wanted to ask, and maybe I'll start with you, Vlad, and we'll work back this way, because I know you're all busy, high-flying execs and you've got places to be. I just want to ask, in your job, can you think of an example where you now currently use AI and it helps you?
Yeah, maybe just recently about this conference to consult with AI about the topic and what AI actually thinks of the idea to being AI, and also in setting the strategy for the company, the technological strategy in terms of, for example, getting information quickly that I need to know, the correct information, and also to see what are the trends in the world. So I don't have to research like hours for different data. I just can ask AI and to do faster exploring and research.
Right.
That's
And what about you, Aaron?
By definition, what I'm doing is discovering new trends. I'm leading the innovation activities in Colt, so always looking at new things. Like Benji, I can't imagine a world without AI now, because I'm going much faster with AI. It helps me. It helps me to take decisions. It helps me to identify where we should go. It doesn't take the decision for me, but it helps me. So for sure, AI is honestly every day useful for me.
Great.
I was talking. It's like your best friend in terms of
Exact.
decision making, and
Yeah.
Probably more reliable than your best friend as well.
it's always there.
No, it's
you know?
a paid friend because I pay for them, so that's kind of
And what about you, Hitesh? How do you use AI in your job?
I think the key for me is the synthesis of information. Right? I think it's the way we consume information. Previously, you used to search, look for different things in terms of, trying to find what are the key trends, what are the key elements in terms of, that will influence the product strategy. But I use it more to synthesize information. You prompt it with different requests and look at what information is coming. So it's helping to provide that analysis of the information for me. Again, everything in terms of our processes within the company as well. We're also looking at how we can make it more efficient. So as part of everyday work in terms of we're doing test specifications, where it's requirement specification. Can we use that to have a more standardized structure in terms of how we can make sure we get the right information? So again, it's all about efficiency metrics that we're looking at in terms of how we can apply that within our job.
Okay, great. What about you, Guy?
Well, I like the word friends. You know,
Yep.
my wife asked me if I said I've got any friends anymore, and I told her yes, I've got 6 of them: Grok, Gemini, ChatGPT, Perplexity. They're all paid, by the way. It's horrible. Yeah, you know. So, but I'm very practical on my journey to become AI native. So in the forum, we've got to become AI native. We've got to turn the industry AI native.
Yeah.
So I'm actually following the practical ways of life. I have rags that I build, and when I go into meetings with a whole bunch of all-knowing architects, I'm almost the smartest guy in the room without knowing anything.
Uh-huh.
But I do, because my time's short.
Yeah.
I analyze lists of members, and I get conclusions. But most of all, on a personal level, I actually use it to read my own thoughts to me. And I converse. If you don't know, you can actually talk to ChatGPT in the car. I'll tell you more. If you have a 40-minute drive to work, you can actually put a prompt inside and tell it to test you.
Wow.
And then you can actually go and have a conversation. And I do have quite a lot of conversation. I suspect OpenAI has a biometric signature of me already. So probably the first one to be imitated, but
Okay.
that's what I use it for.
You fully embraced it. And so then finally, with you, Benji, how do you
Not
use
on this level.
Not on that level. It's all right. It's not a competition.
How am I going to write a prompt into my ChatGPT? No, in general, I'm fully still in the experimental modus. We actually have to use an internal only co-pilot, which is actually for us not actually that sexy and that, how can I say, intuitively nice than when I use ChatGPT for my personal stuff, of course. And it's exploring, but also what I enjoy with what I'm now doing with AI in general is just challenging my own beliefs a little bit. So what are the counterfactuals? So if I have a certain set of beliefs or data points that I think are true, so also business models, revenue models, I would say, give me five scenarios of why I am wrong. And then actually really challenging myself. And because it's actually maybe a machine telling me I'm wrong, I'm more receptive than another human telling me I'm wrong, because then I would go in the defensive because I know my character, my personality profile.
Yeah, you take it personally.
And then I believe you're enriching your scope, but you need to be as curious as that to say, I'm using this as a tool, I'm not as a reliance, but engaging. So maybe I can have those challenging conversations and debates, and maybe it'll decompress me before I come home to not have those same conversations with my partner. So maybe I can use it that way as well. So
Get out your
experimental. But as a telco typical, right from autonomous operations to cybersecurity to proposition redesign to cost reduction, it's all full suite across the stacks, different lighthouses. So, but those are other teams. I can't take the credit for the teams and what they're doing. So.
That's brilliant. No, I think to summarise what a lot of you have said in that final answer, it's like one of the functions it can perform is like a sanity check. You can stress test your own ideas and make sure that you're not missing something or you're not just delusional or whatever. So I can see that as a very useful thing.
But always double check.
Yes. Well, exactly.
No addiction. No addiction.
Sanity check.
There's the flip side. Don't over rely on it. Okay, well, thank you very much. That's fascinating. I feel like we could have spoken for twice as long, but we're all busy people. So thank you very much to the whole panel. Thank you very much to TechnoTree for hosting this and for our audience.